while we can find ways of not making it happen often. When it happens, you just have to run for your life. So in terms of adaptation, there's little you can do about wildfire when they are happening. There are others we can have ways to adapt and to be very efficient, like agriculture, like water, like sea level rise. So for agriculture, we know the rising temperature is affecting the increased crop loss. It's affecting yield. Cassava is one of our main crops in the country. Their yield is going down, and there's new pests and diseases that have emerged, and they are affecting agriculture. Rainfall amount has reduced in some places, and that's is bringing shorter growing season for crops. These also affect agricultural practices. Droughts, we get it all the time in our part of the world. It causes the soils to be drier and plants struggle to grow. Sea level rise also happens in our part of the world and in other places. I will give you more details into these ones going forward, particularly for these are drought conditions in subtropical regions and also in the tropical regions. We have this, and it leads to hunger, it leads to starvation, and it causes people to migrate to places that they can plant. Drought leads to plants suffering, that plants will not grow well, and of course, it affects agriculture a lot. Hunger, hypertension, skin diseases, all of these impacts do come in, and even effect on water. So still on agriculture, I did a paper in 2018, or I led a paper in 2018 that looked at the impact of global temperatures reaching 1.5 and 2 degrees on the dry days and wet days over West Africa. And I went through the modeling process to come up with the results. And you may not understand this into details, but this shows that we want to understand how the world will look like under this climate change, under the warming levels of that 1.5 and 2 degrees Celsius. So when, let's say, I can even use when, because we are almost there. I was going to change it to if we reach a warming level of 1.5 and 2 degrees, what will happen to our agricultural land? What will happen to our rainy season, our dry season, our consecutive dry season, consecutive wet season? That is one study I did for the whole of West Africa and reported the details. We'll not go into that. This particular one also looked at about the same warming levels at different scenarios for particularly rice production, sorghum, and millet. So this one, we are looking at suitability, the soil suitability or climate suitability for growing rice in the northern part of Ghana. That's most of the places we produce rice from. So we do this so that we can adapt to the issue. So let's say for the very first one is the observation. So if we don't do anything at all and we allow the climate to move or warm at the same frequency, how will the rice production be like going forward? So we call it suitability plot. So the green areas shows that we can plant rice and they will grow well with all other conditions attached, with rainfall falling normally and all of that. The yellow areas are like reducing the suitability, and the red areas are like it's not suitable to grow rice that side. A result like this goes to a policymaker, and the policymaker and the farmers and the people will have to look at the results and plan an adjustment process. How do we adjust when we know that we can no longer grow rice here in this area? We have to move it to growing rice in other areas which are more suitable than, so it's an adaptation action. Or the reason we can't grow rice here is because the rainfall in this area will reduce. So let's provide irrigation system, let's provide, so I will show you some of the actions that one can take for the different adaptation or different impacts and how we can adapt. So that is for rice. This is for millet, and you can see that it's not the same pattern that we have for millet for rice, because they grow under different agricultural conditions, different weather conditions, different soil conditions. So this is for millet, and this is for sorghum. So you can see that the pattern shows very different. So while sorghum will struggle to grow in the northern parts, rice could be better in most areas in the northern parts. So another way is also adjust the lifestyle, the eating pattern to grow crops that will probably grow than to grow that can cultivate well, than to grow crops which we have to suffer and go through a lot of challenges before producing them. So eating style, lifestyle will have to change based on climate change for adaptation, as an adaptation action. So yeah, so these are some of the actions for agriculture. Climate will change both food we grow and the way we grow them. So government and farmers can adapt by altering the species. So in some countries, they are into a research that will give them species of their crops that can grow in a short time and yield and high yield over a short time. That they are called crop resistance, or crops that are resilient to climate conditions. So we can grow other crops instead of, so like I showed you as an example, in the northern part, we can see that growing rice will be better than growing sorghum or growing millet. So we could grow other crops other than some others that we are more comfortable with, or that is what we know. So lifestyle will change, eating style will change going forward, but that is also an adaptation option. Then, of course, some people will go into genetically modified crops that can cope more and climate change. That was a discussion in Ghana at some point. Now it has cooled down, and I'm sure we're already eating genetically modified food. It's not to kill. These are technologies that provide food for food security in our world. Then it's also important to invest in probably water harvesting technology. So when we don't get the rains at the time we have to get them, or we don't get them at the quantities that we need to get them, at the places where we need to get them, then we fall on dams and reservoirs to moist the soil for our crops to grow. Then probably the application of fertilizers, pesticide, herbicide, and weedicide, all those ones will also come in. And then the use of irrigation, timing and dosage are all important to study and adjust to. Then we need to invest in drainage technology. So all of these things I'm talking about comes at a cost. So adaptation costs is another topic or another area altogether. One impact we are having on climate is the sea level rise, the coastal areas. So most sensitive beaches, salt, mangroves, swamps, deltas, coastal reefs, lagoons are all being affected by sea level rise. And this is affecting many low-lying coastal cities like Shanghai, like Ghana, like Dakar, like I didn't mention Bangladesh, but in the next slide, you will see Bangladesh. We are losing Bangladesh. Consequences of climate change on the sea. So the global sea level has also increased by more than 0.2 meters already. And the rate at which it is rising is again a concern. If you look at the graph here, this shows the land area that has been affected by sea level rise. So all will be affected when the sea level rises by 1 meter. So Africa will lose a land of just about 150 or just above 100,000 kilometers square. Australia, Europe, Latin America, Asia will lose a lot more. The number of populations that are affected, you can see the graph shows that Asia will get affected a lot more. Then, of course, the effect on GDP, because once we have this effect, we want to adapt. And the cost of adaptation will definitely affect the GDP of the continent that is affected by this. This is Bangladesh. Bangladesh in many years ago used to have a good land mass, and the ocean was very small compared to the Bangladesh of today. So the first picture shows the past of Bangladesh. The last picture down here shows how much the ocean has eaten the land up. So coastal erosion, and it is projected that by the end of the century, if you are lucky, we will not have, if you are lucky to reach the end of the century, Bangladesh will be no more in existence. The ocean will eat up Bangladesh, so there will be no more Bangladesh. All the land area of Bangladesh will be in the ocean. We have seen many coastal erosion, the effect of sea level rise, even in Ghana, in many coastal areas in Ghana. If you go the length of Keta area, most of you, if you have not seen, you have heard stories about Keta. It is real. If you go in any coastal area in Ghana, you will see the effect of sea level rise. Cape Coast, Takoradi, Elubu, all those lines, you will see that even in Accra, we have seen the effect of this sea level rise. It's eating up properties and people. So adaptation, we have to adapt anyway. How do we adapt? We may have to leave the area or migrate to another area. We have to abandon areas where we used to have economic activities, social activities for safer places inland. We need to plan to provide what they call sea defense, protect the ocean or the land of the beach. So the beach area need to be protected. We have seen sea defense provided in some parts of our coasts, and they are all to help adapt to the condition of the sea taking over the land. So over time, probably we are really losing the land mass in all the coastal areas in the world. Water is another area that's, I learned the next world war will be on water. Hopefully not, but then that is what the projections are saying. We're already struggling with the water demand because of increasing population and economic development. So there are a lot of competing interests for water. And climate change is making the situation of water shortage even worse. So there are a lot also to do to safeguard our water bodies, because climate change is making the situation on demand much higher. So this is projection for water scarcity in 2025. Where you see red means there's going to be serious implication of water scarcity. Where you have the yellow means it's kind of moderate. And where you have the blue means there's only a little scarcity of water. So you can see where Africa is, especially you see southern part of Africa, South Africa is going to suffer greatly the northern part of Africa is also going to suffer greatly with water scarcity. For those of us in Ghana, in West Africa, in the middle part of Africa, it's still moderate. However, this is for water in general. If you look at fresh water itself, this is freshwater stress that is also projected to 2025 compared to 1995. So this is a good comparison to see how the water stress, so there's more demand on water already through various activities, could be economic, could be population growth, it could be any competing interest. And you can clearly compare how we are going through the stress in future. Fresh water is what we drink and what we use to cook. We need to also adapt to the changing water supplies or the reducing water supplies. So we need to educate ourselves on efficient use of water. We need to invest in groundwater technologies because there are a lot of water underground, more than we actually have on the surface. So we need to invest in boreholes or pumps and dams, and how we can get the water below us, the underground water, check the safety of it, the security of it, and be able to use them for food, to drain, to cook, and also even to use it for everything that we need water to use for. Another area to adapt is to invest in rainwater. If we don't get rain all the time, what we get, we should be able to harvest them, store them, and use them. And there are so many benefits to rainwater. So I've dedicated a slide for rainwater harvesting. Only a few people think about rain harvesting or do some things about rain harvesting. But this is an area we can also go into to save us. And there are so many benefits to harvesting rainwater. We'll go into that. So that's it. I move forward on that. Yeah, so on rainwater harvesting, that is when we want to collect or divert, store, and use water. Instead of allowing it to run off to cause flood, you want to collect and reuse the rainwater. And it helps, again, to reduce flooding, flash flood, and main floods in the cities, because you collect what could have run off into a flooding area, you collect them and then use them. So we need to provide tanks, reservoir dams, and water pans to collect them. Growing up, I saw parents collecting water from the rain and storing, and then we use them when there are no rain or when the pipe, when there are water not passing through the taps, we use them. But these days, it's very difficult to see such a practice, and we have to get back to harvesting rainwater for our use. There's a issue of migration because of climate change. There are areas that are highly exposed to climate conditions, climate events, and climate, like those in the coastal areas. So sea level rise is already displacing them. So their only option is to migrate, and it's adaptation acts to migrate. We have the other. Hello. So migration can also be because there are droughts in an area where people farm, and that's where they have their livelihood. But then because of climate change, making things worse for them, they can no longer farm, produce food for their livelihood, and they have to migrate to other places they can actually grow and live. So migration is another climate action. I was talking about adaptation costs. For Africa, by 2030, these are the various countries and how much they are going to lose on their GDP because of adaptation, the action they have to take due to climate change. And if you have to spend the monies or funds that you want to use to develop your country to focus on cost of adaptation or to focus on adaptation, then it means that we are not moving forward, but rather looking back. So these are costs that governments and countries will have to bear on adaptation. So all the actions we have talked about is not cheap. They are all very expensive to contain. So I think these are a few, and I want to, this being my last lecture on this call, I want to tell you about myself and give you some words of motivation going forward. I am married with 3 children. I hold a PhD from University of Cape Town in South Africa. My research focuses on climate modeling, climate impact assessments, and society, health, energy, gender. And I work on international and national projects and consultancies. As the introduction went, I am a vice chair of Working Group 1 of the IPCC. And I was a lead author still in the Working Group 1 of the State Assessment Report. I am a full professor at the Department of Physics, University of Ghana. I am the currently head of department of the same department, University of Ghana. I currently serve as a board member of UNESCO International Basic Sciences Program. There are a lot more about me. I teach as a guest lecturer at YCLIP, which is the West African Science Service Center for Climate Change and Adapted Land Use. I teach physics, cloud physics, atmospheric physics, climate dynamics, thermodynamics, regional climate modeling, computational tools for climate science, and many other courses. I program in R, in Python, in Fortran. I supervise student research in Ghana and abroad for master's and PhD. I serve as an external examiner for universities in Ghana and abroad. I was a senior scientist at a research center at the Ghana Space Science and Technology Center, now an institute of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission. And I served there also as a manager of the Remote Sensing and Climate Center at the institute. I wear many hats. The reason I want to give you this kind of motivation, there are many opportunities. So there are a lot of problems to address. Understanding the climate system, the dynamics itself is a big deal to do. The quality and high resolution prediction we need. And today with machine learning and AI, we know we can reach to this goal. But we need new ideas, we need innovation. Some of the reasons we are doing this lecture and engaging you all to come up with solutions, to come up with innovation, is because there are opportunities to excel. And there are so many opportunities with institutions available, many, many more. We have AIMS, the African Institute of Mathematical Sciences. We have the IPCC, which I connect. You can all be part of the IPCC. We have WASCAL, we have ICTP. There are many, many more institutions. And I say that hard work pays. I've come this far by hard work and also by connection. You connect with people. And I never relent to learn new things. So you should be ready to get back to learn. It's never late to learn. And I encourage you that you have to be bold, because fortune favors the bold. You can know all that in your head, but if you are not bold to come up with it, nobody will recognize it and nobody will count it as your contribution in any way. Just this morning, I received an email and I want to throw it to you. I copied just from my email. In fact, I did a screenshot, but you can see that I've painted some place black. I don't want you to see something. So here it's asking that on behalf of climate change AI, I'm telling you this because it's related to the things that we want to do in your innovation, in your incubation. On behalf of climate change AI, we would like to invite you to serve as a reviewer of our 2024 Innovation Grants Program. So thus, they are calling for proposals. They've called for proposals and they want me to be part of those who review and select those who will get those who qualify to be given the grant for their projects. And look at the amount here. They are looking at $150,000 per project and up to a total of 1.4 million for all the projects that they will select. And they are getting support by different groups and companies. So I really challenge you to come up with something. There are so many opportunities within this space of climate change, and especially when you want to add technology in this space. The opportunity is great and out there. I will end here on this note and say thank you. If there are questions, we can answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. That was such an incredible session. We have a lot of hands on. We have Kelvin, Felix, and Sheriff. Please go on to ask your questions. Kelvin, Felix, and Sheriff. So, Kelvin.
Yes, thank you, Prof. I would like to ask that in the case of the northern region where they are experiencing harsh weather condition accompanied with an unusual rainfall patterns, their adaptation processes will be very costly. What alternative methods are there to ensure that they adapt properly and quickly so that they can carry on? Thank you.
Please go on.
Yes, I wanted to ask, considering the northern region, especially the upper east, the Bongo and the rest, what adaptation methods can be in effect to ensure that their agricultural activities are moving faster for the country? Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, Prof.
Yes.
Yes, Terry.
Yes, Kelvin asks a question. Kelvin, can you please repeat your question?
Yes, Prof. Good morning and thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to ask that looking at the northern region, where they have harsh weather conditions and an unusual rainfall patterns, accompanied with some, their agricultural activities are now in a very slow manner. What adaptation methods can we use to make sure that they bounce back to providing food for the nation in these harsh times? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So as I mentioned, we may have to change, first of all, do research like I showed you. We have done some research to know the suitability of the crops that we use or we have in Ghana, and where they can grow well in future, what the performance now and how the future will be like for those crops. So we have to prepare ourselves in knowing when to grow what, where to grow which crops, so that we can continue to feed, because food security is an issue, and it's one of the I think the second goal on the SDG, no hunger. So we have to, work hard at it as much as possible. If we have to change our eating style, why not? So that we can continue to have food to eat. So the different strategies, including providing dams and irrigation technology for farming if the rainfall is not falling regularly. We depend a lot on rainfall in our part of the world, and for agriculture especially. And that is the reason we sometimes get food shortage and gets very expensive food. Apart from other issues on dollar rate and all of that. But most importantly, with the effect of climate change on crop production or agricultural practices, we have to look at irrigation as one way. We have to store rainwater to use them when we need them, because when the rains also fall, they can fall so many in amounts that farms get flooded, or it gets too much and the crops do not even need that much water. They also die or they don't grow well in too much of water. So just enough water for the crops to need to use means that we have to redirect the water into probably a dam or store the water whichever way possible. So we put them back in the soil when there's a need for it. So these actions, some you do it anyway, but we have to be more ambitious to adapt to these changes.
All right, thank you, Prof. So Felix is next. Felix Arthur, please ask the question. Sheriff, are you there?
Yes, please, I'm here.
Please ask your question.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Go on. Sheriff, you can go on to ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much. Prof, thank you so much for breaking down everything for us. Honestly, the learning site was great, but
Hello.
Hello,
good morning.
Hello?
Sheriff, go on.
Yeah, from my view, I couldn't understand certain things, and then Prof has really made it very simple. Thank you very much. And I'm hoping to see you win a Nobel Prize one day. You have the potential.
Amen.
Yes, yes, Prof. Please, the question is actually from the first lecture that we had, the mathematical modeling that you were doing. I want some clarification. Please, the equation that involved the absorption that the Earth does, the solar radiation that the Earth absorbs and then what it gives back. You found some energy change in there. I wanted to know if that energy change is it directly proportional to the climate change or is actually equal to the climate change?
If the energy is proportional to climate change.
Yes, or is equal to. It's exactly.
No. So what are related to is temperature.
Okay.
So the energy, so that is the energy of the Earth. Or every object. So at that time, I was using the Earth as the source or the objects. So the E that you saw is the energy from the Earth. It's proportional to temperature, but the fourth power of temperature. So we say E is proportional to T to the power 4. So when you want to change the proportion, you introduce equal to, and then you introduce a constant of proportionality. So we say the E energy is equal to sigma, which is the Stefan Boltzmann's law or constant, times the fourth power of temperature, T to the power 4. The reason we are putting the constant of proportionality is the rule by Stefan Boltzmann that every object gives off radiation to the fourth power according to its temperature. So when the object is hotter, it gives off more energy than when it is colder. Is that okay? And I can use for you, if you are a few in a room with air condition, you can feel a little bit colder because there's air condition. But the more the room is packed with people, you see that no matter how low you turn the air condition, you start feeling warm inside the room. It's because everybody in the room is giving off radiation, giving off energy. And so after some time, the room gets hot and the air conditioning still doesn't have effect or not helping in any way. So that's just to demonstrate that every object gives off radiation. You don't see, but it releases and it goes off through every part of you. It comes out.
Okay.
And radiation in terms of energy or in a form of energy.
Thank you very much. Please, and I have another question on today's lecture.
Sheriff, if you can ask another question, let's move on to the next person.
I beg.
I do say,
Can you type it?
Please, can you ask your question? Yes, please move on. Go on.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. You are loud and clear.
And actually, my question is about the impact of.
Okay, Joel, please move on. Ask your question.
My question is about the impact of climate change.
Hello.
On action.
Yeah, Joel, move on.
Okay, so my question is.
Joel.
Hello,
please, can you hear me?
Yeah, Joel, you are loud and clear.
There are two people talking.
Okay, so.
Go ahead.
Joel, go on.
Okay, so my question is on mitigation measures. And then I wanted to ask, how can we ensure climate justice in the transition to a low carbon economy, particularly for the vulnerable communities?
Yeah, thank you. So one of the ways we are looking at climate justice is for the developed countries to contribute into the Green Climate Fund, where they promised $100 billion per year into the Green Climate Fund. And that is a fund that's supposed to be assessed by developing countries and least developed countries for the various, especially adaptation actions that they are taking in their country. So to assess that fund, you need to demonstrate that whatever you are doing is related to climate change. And you have to also demonstrate that you either contribute low emission or no emission to the already greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Another way we are dealing with climate justice is to push the developed countries contributing to greenhouse gases to pay for loss and damage. It's still a big discussion, and it hasn't reached the level where our confidence can say they are going to pay, but it's still a discussion. So loss and damage, and this is talking about losses and damages that are caused by climate change. So first, you have to be sure that this particular damage caused to you or loss to you is because of climate change. So I use one example. At the coastal area where we're having coastal erosion, let's say the Keta area, the sea is taking over the houses of people. So it's taking also their livelihood. Is that because of sea level rise? Is that because of sea level rise, or it's because people are taking the sand for building their houses? So if you're able to demonstrate that these are coastal erosion that have taken people's land is because of sea level rise, then you'll be able to probably apply if the fund ever comes, but it's a discussion on loss and damage. So we're trying, but it's not as good as we like it. That's it.
We are trying, but it's not as good as we like it. So probably there are some questions in the Q&A session. So John Quason is asking that, please, Prof, concerning the rising temperatures, how can farmers mitigate the effects of rising temperatures on crop yield? Are there specific crop varieties that are more resilient to increased temperatures?
Yeah. So even in Ghana, we've had a study into cassava and plantain by the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, where we had cassava that grows over a short period of time, but gets a good yield, a very good yield, like one cassava looking like a yam kind of yield. So there are a few, and then a plantain that is as short as everybody's height, the shortest person's height, but is able to produce plantain for, so you can stand on the ground and cut it like easily, even if you are short kind of plantain. And I know they do something also on mango and some other crops. So things are happening, but again, we can do better. Okay.
Thank you, Prof. Gideon Amopafu, please go on to ask a question. Gideon Amopafu, are you there? Okay. Isaac Kofi, please ask your question. Isaac, please go on.
Hello, sir.
Okay, so
Isaac, go on.
thank you very much, Mr. Terry, and then Prof. Thank you so much for your insightful presentation and then your inspiration. But the profile there, I didn't know, but we'll get there. So my question is, it has to do with the adaptation. And then back there in the village, you know, my grandmother is what she knows is the only thing she knows is about the use of firewood. Now, firewood has to do with cutting of trees, which means she's also causing some kind of danger to the environment. But here's the case, this is what she's known for, or this is what the people are known for. So how do we deal with this situation? And then with that of the genetic modified foods, you know, our culture is such a way that we don't easily accept things. When this thing popped, when it came up, there were a lot of issues around it that why should we go in for such things? So with where we are going now, how do we deal with such things and then our culture, because our culture also plays a major role in all these things.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I was in European Parliament's panel for a discussion, and they put a question up to me. They said they brought solar cooking stoves and oven in some part of Africa so that they will go clean cooking and stop cutting trees for firewood. But they realized that they were, at the very beginning, they welcomed the idea and they took the products. They didn't use it for more than 1 month. They stopped using it. Then they asked me, is it like they just want to contribute to the greenhouse gases through the cutting of wood and using firewood and all of that? Or like, what is the problem? Why? Then I explained, because we have one situation that I witnessed myself, where fishermen and fishmongers were provided with solar ovens. So they were supposed to roast their fishes in the oven, which is a solar oven. And they did it at the beginning. Later they stopped. They abandoned the oven. It was for community-based oven. They abandoned it. Their reason is, one, the fish doesn't taste the same way that they have known it. And two, it denies them from going to farm as women, talking to friends and family on the way and coming back with firewood to cook. So culture is very important. So before you actually introduce a product that people will have to change their style of living and all of that, it needs a lot of education and it can take time. If you leave it on the people just like that, the fear is that it will not strive. So there's a lot of education that is needed in this scheme of our action and the efforts. We need a lot of education. So yes, your grandmother was happy to do that. And the education it's very important. So if it hasn't gone that way, we need to work at it. One of the activities we are going to do for this program, for most of the participants, is community projects. And it's important that you understand these issues. So when you get out there, you are able to demonstrate your understanding to the communities and be able to get the challenges there and come up with solutions to it. So culture is very important. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. So Obedzo, your turn, please. Obedzo.
Yeah, hello.
Please go on.
Yeah, please, I wanted to ask that due to increase in population growth rate and the limited forest land space through farming activities and construction, we mainly have to adapt like the use of fertilizers and the production of other GMO cater for human needs. So I think with this initiative, like in return, we are going to get more greenhouse gases, which is very difficult to like get away from, to use other alternatives. So I wanted to ask if it would be better to adapt this activities, or we should rather mitigate them.
And you were breaking at the very beginning. So what
Okay,
are you saying we should adapt or mitigate?
Okay, I'm saying that due to increase in population growth rate, human activities such as farming and human construction, like construction of buildings and other things, are eating into the limited forest space. And we, however, have to like adapt to the use of fertilizers and producing GMO, which in return produces more greenhouse gases. I don't know if you get.
Yes.
For example, the use of fertilizer.
Yes, the production itself.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
sometimes we have to actually trade off. So what can we do to live comfortably, not overly comfortable, but just comfortable, but also at the same time not add or harm the climate? So if we use fertilizer and it will provide us with food, but then we'll add a little bit to the climate. That's why we say low carbon or no carbon. So it can be low carbon. So the efficient application of fertilizer is allowed, it's okay. So if that is what will give us food to eat, you don't want to go hungry, you want to still eat, but then you add a little bit to the greenhouse gases, it's allowed.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Somebody is asking in the chat that, hello, Prof. Please, my question relates to career in climate change. I'm currently a final year LL student, and I would like to focus on the area of climate change, climate law. However, with my research, it cuts across to environmental law, which is broad in general. Please, have you come across such findings as in areas in climate law only and not environmental law in general?
Yes, so I have seen climate law, yeah, and the climate justice. So we don't have any institution doing that in Ghana. But then some universities abroad are doing a program focusing on climate law and not just environmental law, but very specific. So you may have to look up online, or let's talk later and see how I can help.
Oh, all right, thank you. And then Parkour and is it Hafsatu asking the same question? They are saying that how can we balance short-term needs with long-term sustainability in climate change?
Yeah, so it's the same thing. Whatever we do, we have to consider not to add to greenhouse gases, but then as much as possible, also live comfortably. But yeah.
Okay, is it Gifty? Gifty, please ask your question.
Okay, please can you hear me?
You are loud and clear.
Okay, Prof, thank you so much for your time and everything that you've taught us. So my question is about solar radiation management. So you were talking about them, there has been researches about them injecting aerosols into the atmosphere to help reduce the amount of incoming solar radiation. My question is, won't it have an effect, a long-term effect on the climate, like make things worse? Because I know that the main source of energy on the earth is solar radiation, is from the sun. And then the sun powers a lot of the things that goes on. So the sun heats up the earth and it powers wind movements, which will help with renewable energy, such as when we want to look into wind turbines. So the wind will power wind turbines, and then solar panels, the sun will power those. So if we reduce the amount of incoming solar radiation, wouldn't that affect the long-term goal of shifting towards more renewable energy sources? And then also, so the main problem right now is that the earth is warming because of the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And then we are looking into reforestation. Again, the plants need the sun to go through photosynthesis to be able to absorb the carbon dioxide. That's the problem that's in the atmosphere. So I feel like us like trying to limit the incoming solar radiation will in the long term actually have a negative effect on the goals we have for the future, like which is to use the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere.
Can I answer, Gifty?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the same fear you are entertaining, there are a lot of questions about this already out there, and it's legitimate. So the idea is not to block the whole sunlight, of course not, but just some parts to get reflected more than what we have currently, so that it will help with the cooling. So it's not to block or take away all the sunlight, but just a bit of it so that we can have some cooling. The idea came up when we had a volcanic eruption that sent out into the atmosphere some aerosols like sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere. And sulfur dioxide brought cooling into the world, and a cooling of up to 10%. That is very significant in that 1990 or 1992 volcanic eruption, Pinatubo volcanic eruption. So that 10% of cooling is very significant. And it didn't stop plants from growing. It didn't stop solar panels from working and any of those things. It's just a small amount that we can actually reflect, and not as too much that will affect crops. But then it's because it's a legitimate question, it's subject to research. So there are a lot we can do also on that research. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Mamiska, please your question. Mamisika, is it Mamisika Mensah? Yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
Thank you
Hello.
very much for such an insightful 3 days. It's been very informative. So mine is not a question. I just want to get your opinion on this. There's a school of thought out there that there are countries that just discovered oil, poor countries, and this is their chance to develop. Is it fair that at the time that they've gotten such an opportunity, we are saying that they shouldn't utilize it to develop their economies? And also, I was thinking that the reason why the Paris Agreement has not really worked is that most countries have different interests. Don't you think that we should put countries with similar interests together into sub-blocks so that they could develop policies that tailor to their interest? Wouldn't that be easier? Thank you very much.
I think, again, your concern is very legitimate, and I really stand with you. The fact is this, yes, we call ourselves developing countries, and we should develop any way we want to develop without influence, without being directed by the global north. However, we are in this mess together, even though we from the developing countries did not cause it. We are in the mess together. So no matter how much you add, however small, you are contributing to this issue. So we're looking at a scenario of a cup full of water that is already full. It may allow a few more drops of water and it will not overflow. But there will be that just one drop that can cause the water to overflow. And remember that when it overflows, it will not overflow that last drop that you dropped. It will overflow many more. When this happens, people in the developed countries who have actually filled the water to the top, to the full, and you are only dropping a few, may have adaptive capacity. Yours was just a drop, but it has overflowed the whole cup of water. You may not have the adaptive capacity. So the education and the advocacy is that even that small drop, don't add it, don't drop it. But then the question of justice comes in here. Who should suffer for who to gain? Some have already gained by using us all, or let's say developed without or indiscriminately of the greenhouse gas emission. But today we are all awake to the fact that assessing fossil fuel, using fossil fuel is adding to the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. It's a bone of contention now as we speak. You have countries that go strongly like, we will not mind you, we are going to mine our oil. We have others that say, we have oil on the ground, you can't mine it. So the green fund and every other fund, we also have adaptation fund and all of that, is to compensate for the fact that you can actually add more greenhouse gas to the atmosphere because you have the oil on the ground, you have gold, so you cut your tree and go for your gold. But then we don't want you to do it. So we are pleading that instead of cutting the trees to mine the gold or drilling your oil, go and take the money from the green fund and use it for what you need to use it for. So that is the discussion. That's why we go to COP. Every time we are attending conference of parties, negotiating, don't do this. Okay, don't do it too much. Do it small. Do that, do that. Okay, countries that are already there, bring us the technology for solar panel instead of fossil fuel, those kind of things. So it's a negotiation. It's a very difficult situation. But then we have to negotiate with the mindset that even if it is one small drop, it can cause us our problem. It can cause the tipping point that we don't want to get there. Gifty, that was who, Gifty or?
Yeah. Is it Gifty or Mami's question?
So we take the last three and then we can come to a close.
Okay, so I do say.
Thank you, Mr. T, and also thank you, Prof, for the opportunity. And my question actually focuses on the impact of climate change on future crop production. And at first, I wanted to ask the question about the predicting rising global temperatures and how it will affect the productivity of major staple crops. And I think someone just asked that question, so I will ask another one. So the question is about, can there be an effective policy to support farmers in adapting to climate change? And or would there be some challenges in the agricultural policy? Thank you.
So policy that's supporting farmers,
yes.
One of them is for them to listen to forecasts. So there are seasonal forecasts that come. One of them is the support for irrigation farming. One of them is provision of improved seeds for crops. And there are so many interventions that actually help support farmers. I don't know, I don't want to call it policy, but it's more of interventions. that support farmers.
Okay, Prof. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Christiana Pepra Opon, please go on with your question.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof, for this opportunity. My question is climate change and human population. You see, the population keeps on increasing and people need to settle. We have to build infrastructures and construct roads. Definitely, we are going to cut down trees. So how do we balance climate change, like fighting climate change and human population increase? Thank you.
If you go to some countries, they have put policies in place where you can't have more than one child and more than two children, all those kind of policy. But we don't know this one in Africa. So fighting population growth is, I don't know, contextual. It depends on the mindsets of the area, the region. In Africa, if you don't give birth, it's like an abomination. So you don't want to talk about, you don't want to add to population, so you will not give birth. If your family people will allow you, no problem. But it may be a problem for you not wanting to give birth because you don't want to add to the population growth. But other countries, it's fine. It's their style and it's okay. So it's another difficult thing to deal with. But in all, we try to educate ourselves, not more because of population growth, but because of you yourself, the family resources to take care of the children that we come up with. You want to give birth to as less children as possible. So if you do 1, 2, and it's okay, I mean, why go 4, 5? Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thank you
Prof.
very much.
That was the end of. Okay, Prof, before you leave, I would like you to turn on your camera. Can we all turn on our camera so that we take a good photo? Since we have come to the end of the first model, please turn on your cameras. Oh, please turn on your cameras. And you can use the blur option if your background is a bit.
If it's not nice, like yours.
Yeah. If your background is not nice like mine, and then and if you are in bed, you can turn off your camera. Oh, okay. Sure. All right. Thanks for turning on your cameras, and thanks for allowing me to see your beautiful faces. So we can, Prof.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes, Dave.
Yeah. So we can let Prof go now. Prof has other engagement. So
thank you. Bye. Thank you, guys.
And thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Before we leave, we have this to do. Yep. So we are going to do post-event survey. So I would like you to Can you see my screen?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can. I can see.
Okay, so join. I'll drop the link in the chat. We would like to take your view on the first model, how the first model went. You are 60 on this score, so I'm expecting 60 responses. So join using the link in the chat. I'll drop it once again. So it is asking that how satisfied are you with the knowledge you gain from the course? You mean the first model? Nobody has responded so far. Yes, let's do this quick. We have just some few minutes to do this. Let's just use 2 minutes to do this. Nobody has responded so far. Hello, are we there?
Yes, please, we are. We are doing it.
Oh, okay, and I can't see any response.
We are on it. We are almost done.
Please,
One person.
can you send the link on the chat, please?
Yes, the link is in the chat. Please use the link is in the chat. So I've dropped it once again. So use the link in the chat. So 2 people have responded. I'm expecting about at least 60 responses. And please let's use just 2 minutes to finish this. How satisfied are you with the knowledge you gained from the course? How satisfied are you? As we fill the form or the survey, let me remind you that your next model 2, which is Introduction to Green Economy, starts tomorrow, 5th September. Do not hesitate to visit the UNITA website to complete the course. Without that, you can't continue to model 2. Thank you. 17 responses, 40 more, at least 40 more to go. Guys, let's do this real
Mr.
quick.
Terry.
Yes.
Mr. Terry. Please,
Yeah, I'm
can we
listening.
see our
Can you see
our scores for the Slido quiz?
I'll show it to you later. So by you, let's finish it.
Especially the all the list of first 10.
Why are you so interested in that one?
Because I'm in the first 10.
Okay, so the condition for seeing your score is
Amen.
that finish this in a minute and I'll show you your score. Let's finish this in the next 1 minute.
I'm
and I'll show
done.
Please,
But
I'm
you have,
also
I'm done.
done. So
we have
we
about
are
30 more
done.
people to participate to. Okay, you let me move on to the next question.
Maybe they are.
How do you, okay, you've already, okay. Fail, 34 responses. Jerry, Amma, Gifty, okay. Oh, we have 24 more people to respond, else I will not show you your score. So encourage your people to respond. Oh, I'll go and tell Prof that people have rated her 48.6 out of 10. No, yes.
The rating is out of 5 and you rated her 4.88. That's
not encouraging. Why not 5/5?
not all of us have voted so far, so expect that.
Okay. Okay, let me remind you once again. Your next model, which is model 2, starts tomorrow at exactly 12 a.m. Please visit the UNITA website to complete. Without that, you can't continue. If you have any difficulty accessing the questionnaire, just scan the QR code. You will be allowed to join. 47 responses. I need about 10 more, and I can show you your score. Please encourage your people to participate. Eight people. Oh, people of God, do the needful.
Brother. So I'm done with mine.
Yes. So the other people, so this is this is the list we are going to use to pick the 25 people. So if I go and then your name and I stop receiving responses and your name is not passed,